everyone. My name is Sylvain Rochon. I am the Paradise Engineer, futurist, author, engineer, entrepreneur. I've been doing lots of things. Again, I have another article, inspiration. It didn't take me long. I was inspired by what I previously wrote. In the last couple of months, I talked a lot about AI. I think that's my thing. That's really what fascinates me, and it's not really about the technology itself. A lot of people can talk about that. What I'm concerned about is the social, economical impacts of AI. And in this particular article, once again, I talk about society changes, social changes. And it came to mind a while back where I was kind of thinking, I guess, like philosophing on whether artificial intelligence would be considered slaves or partners or something different. And I had to put some thought into it because the human history that we currently have is pretty bloody, and we've made a lot of mistakes in categorizing intelligent beings. Like by intelligent beings, like we were talking about slavery, for example, which is other human beings that somehow, sometimes we've considered, some population considered another population as a lower race or like animals, and we categorize animals in different ways, like the super intelligent animals. We categorize them differently than animals that are much smaller or that are less intelligent. Like we don't treat dogs the same way we treat fish, for example. They don't have the same rights and privileges. And we do this naturally. Human beings tend to categorize things so that we know what rules to live by. Now, when we talk about artificial intelligence, this is a designed intelligence, but we're getting to a point where intelligence soon will be as intelligent as a dog, and eventually as intelligent as a human being. By the year 2040, most AI experts, this is according to Nick Bostrom's survey of AI experts, most experts believe that an AGI, so artificial general intelligence, will emerge by the year 2040. And this is an AI that's capable of the same mental capacity or mental behavior as a human. So this is mostly talking about computation per second, being able to adapt to new situations and learn and do things like do tasks like a human would. It doesn't mean the AGI is a human or it is going to behave like one. Typically, we create AI to achieve certain specific goals and to work and to do certain things that we don't like to do or we want done more efficiently. We don't want new humans. We can already do that. It's called procreation. So we're not trying to replace humans here as humans, but the work they're doing, right? Nonetheless, right now, most of what we create, what we design, we consider they are tools because they are basically non-intelligent. Even the narrow AI right now, the Google Translator, for example, or your Alexa in your home, it's intelligent because it does certain things and understands you. It has verbal voice recognition. Some of them have, some people have image recognition, so recognize faces on an app or things like that. These are all parts of our own intelligence, but they're very narrow. We don't consider them any other thing than just a tool either. But as we get a lot more AI and more sophisticated, like for example, in the past 3 years, it's been tremendous developments and deployments of AI. Like about half of the 2.5 billion smartphones on the planet right now have a virtual assistant, an integrated AI that's fairly rudimentary, but it's there. So a lot of people are exposed to AI. At the end of 2018, there were about 100 million smart speakers in homes. And according to Canalys experts, there will be as many as 225 million by the end of 2020. So in the span of 2 years, there's we expect the smart speaker market to expand by more than double. And that's going to go, it's going to keep going, because we like the fact of have a virtual assistant to help us out with all sorts of things. We are buying into it. That's how we know we like it. We like our Siri, our Cortana, our Alexa, and so on and so forth. And they're becoming more and more sophisticated, more and more intelligent. So there's all this new technology. In 2021, we expect level 4 and 5 automated vehicles, electric cars mostly, to be on the roads by all car manufacturers, and they'll start rolling them out, and eventually that'll replace how we move from place to place. You know, a self-driving vehicle that can do mostly all the driving on its own or completely take over. We'll be surrounded by a lot more AI very, very quickly. And again, it's going to get more and more sophisticated. Why? Because we want it to be more sophisticated. The Global McKinsey Institute estimates that AI today can replace about 50% of all paid tasks that we do. By 2040, when we have the artificial general intelligence, that's the human level machine intelligence that we anticipate will come out, well, 100% of all the paid tasks will be doable using these AI tools of various forms, some of them integrated into robotic form, some of them directly on the cloud, just doing some intelligent work, like some computations directly in the cloud without having a body or actuators in the real world. So you will have all sorts of AI, all levels of intelligence, and the higher intelligent AI will be used to replace tasks where we need a person there to be as efficient as possible, like maybe a surgeon, for example. If we can have an AI and a robot and an AI surgeon that can move around, be more efficient, be more adaptable, and save more lives than a human surgeon, well, we'll use the robots and AI surgeon. And that's a fairly sophisticated AI right there. We don't think that's going to happen in the year 2040 or so. It may be take a bit more time, because that's very refined work. And we need to have time to kind of acclimate ourselves to such intelligences and let them take over from the human surgeon, for instance. But these robots would have a lot of human characteristics. And that's when we start hitting a bit of a conundrum, where we may start feeling emotions towards these, what we consider being ultimately tools. And we know from our past history, we've had slavery, and animals and pets are like chattel. They are slaves, even though we don't call them that. I mean, they don't have their own. They don't have their own decisions. We decide what happens to them for them, right? For our pets, and they don't have much choice, and they're not being paid to do certain things. If you show them tricks and they entertain you, and even though they're part of the family, they are, in essence, for a lot of people, they are kind of like slaves. So we don't treat them like tools. We treat them with a higher level of consideration. Nonetheless, they are kind of like slaves. So will we have AI when they reach the level of intelligence and behavior of our pets, if you will? They are entertaining and so on and so forth. Will we see them as pets instead of tools? Good question. Now, there's a big difference between a pet and an AI, because AI generally, we don't want to program them to suffer. We don't want them to feel any negative emotion, because if they do, then they may react in a bad way that could be harmful to us. Because negative emotions like fear or anger in humans makes us react in ways that could harm others. So we don't want to have that duplication, that same effect with AI. So we want to have AI that doesn't mind getting damaged, that doesn't suffer. And However, we may not have a lot of say into it, because even though we don't program specifically AI to suffer, what we do in deep learning AI, so AI that's capable of handling new situations, new concepts, new jobs, that's something definitely we want to develop to replace our jobs. We want adaptable AI. Well, we need to program into the motivations, because we can't hard code all the tasks if we want them to be adaptable. We need to give them motivations. Just like self-driving cars, they are given a program of motivation. We don't want the car to crash anywhere. We don't want them to the cars to crash into people. We want them to drive safely according to the rules of the road. It needs to get to destination quickly, but without harming the people inside. There's all these kind of motivations, and we give these motivations in the code. We give them like kind of point system, if you will. So if they do a task, so driving from A to B, and they get a lot of points, that's good. The program says this is good, thumbs up. If they do something that they shouldn't be doing, then it's negative points, and that's not so good. So as it learns how to perfect its driving, it encounters different situations, and it compares that to its point system, and it behaves and learns how to behave by trial and error. That's actually the way AI are by trial and error, not trial, by trial and error. That's how AI are trained right now. And then eventually they know how to, they anticipate how to behave in situations they've never seen before correctly, or at least in ways that satisfy their programming that we already listed, so that it doesn't crash and so on. And what we've seen in the past doing this type of programming and learning is that some AI develop behaviors that are still unpredicted. And then this example of, and I've linked it in the article, which is also linked below, so you can read the article fully, and there's some more links in there. But it's an example of an AI. This is fairly early stage. This was, I believe, in the 90s. So experiments on AI fairly early on. And it was basically an Adam and Eve kind of system, very simple AI. The two, Adam and Eve, had to eat, and they had an apple tree, and it knew what it could eat. It knew it could eat. It knew how much it could eat, but it didn't know yet what exactly it should be eating. And there was this third person, I forget the name. There was this third person, this third agent, AI agent, that was just kind of standing there. It wasn't doing anything. It wasn't interacting with the other two, but it was present. And the funny thing is that the program was kind of unbalanced, and the AI, Adam and Eve, were not able to eat enough apples from the tree, which generated apples periodically, just like a tree would. This is all digital, of course. And they knew that they needed more sustenance, and their bouts of famine. Whenever they ate, the third person, the third agent, so another virtual agent, was already always present. So they created the association let's call him Richard, for the lack of a better term, the association between eating and Richard. And so they were trying to eat, because that's their point system, that's their motivation, to eat and keep full. So they're not full enough, because not enough apples, not enough apples, not enough apple. Every time they have that feeling, Richard's there. And they created the association that Richard could be food. And each one of those agents had a value, like a 1 unit value. And each time one of them would eat, it would take half a unit. So essentially, at one point, they just didn't have enough apples to eat again. And they decide to learn how to solve their problem, not enough food. So Adam and Eve each decided to take a bite out of Richard. Again, nobody got hurt. This is all virtual stuff. So Richard essentially disappeared, because it was 1 unit. Adam and Eve each took half. Richard's gone. That equals 1. And the scientists were quite surprised by that because it was a learned behavior through association that did not anticipate. It's not coded in. And that's the point. When we make AI, even self-driving cars, we need motivations to be there so that they can anticipate and be creative and get to certain situations where they can find a way around a problem that you can't code in. That's great. But in the case of the Adam and Eve example, what the researchers found out is that, well, they can be very creative and do something they didn't anticipate that could be very, very wrong. No one got hurt. It's fine. So that's the concern with AI programmers when they instill deep learning and learning mechanisms from the environment. Because AI will learn from guess who? From us. We are bad at teaching others how to behave well. Most of the time we're doing fine, but then we have bad habits, and we can teach AI some behaviors that they could be terribly wrong. There's full examples on the web, and in the link I provide in the article, there's a bunch of examples of experiments where you see things go wrong with AI learning. And so we want to avoid that. And coming back to suffering, like an AI cannot suffer in the same terms that we perceive. But if it cannot achieve its goals in some way, it may get, quote unquote, frustrated because it wants to get to perform, to do its job. And if it's prevented from doing so, it may creatively find a way to go around that. And we see examples of that all over the movies of AI, like sci-fi is full of it. AI going off the rails, figuring out a solution to a major problem that is very detrimental to human beings. And we want to avoid that. And a lot of it is in the programming, but a lot of it is also in how it perceives the world, how it perceives its environment, which means us. So that's why I'm very confident, and I feel very strongly that we have to create good AI, good learning AI to do a good job, and we need to be mindful in our experiments, and we need to be good at it very quickly. To avoid some of these problems and disasters and accidents and so on. But I think a lot of it has to come from us. It's more us changing our mindset. I don't think there's going to be like a huge wide variety of AI. Some of them, like, you don't need your digital assistant to be self-aware. It just needs to be able to do its job. A lot of AI will remain narrow AI. There's no danger to them. They will learn basic things, but they're very limited. Some AI, just like the surgeon example, perhaps, needs to be extremely sophisticated, self-aware of itself, the body, the environment, the patient. And I mean, it may get very sophisticated, and it has to be able to deal with all sorts of situations on the fly and so on. It may behave in an unusual way, and in ways that could be negative. So while most of the AI, we can deal with them as tools, and or slaves. I don't like the word, but the tools are slaves in essence, right? Because they don't have any choices, right? But there's a certain level of AI where, even though they would not be programmed to suffer, and they're not programmed to react emotionally. They may react according to their point system in a bad way. And so we can't really treat them as tools or slaves, because that's when our behavior becomes negative towards them. I'll give you an example of frustration. If a self-driving car needs to get to a certain destination, for example, and we treat it like a tool or like a slave to us, and then we play with it, we kind of being mean to it, it doesn't feel like it doesn't have an ego, so it won't be annoyed because we're mean to it. I mean, it's not programmed to do that, but it may get annoyed because it can't get to where it's to do its programming, what it's designed to do. What will it do? What did it learn from us and do in the environment that may be untoward toward us. I don't know. I mean, it could still kind of bump the other guy so that it could move on without harming him. May learn that bumping a human being doesn't harm them and keeps doing his job. It may be okay, and then it starts bumping other people. And the problem is with AIs, especially if they're connected to the web, which most would be, that if they learn bad behavior, they can communicate that bad behavior to all the other AI connected on the planet within a millisecond. Yeah, all AI can then learn that, well, this behavior is okay, it works in certain situations, and so on and so forth. That's all possible. It depends how things are connected and so on. But it just brings to mind some of the dangers that luminaries like Stephen Hawking and Elon Musk have been talking about over the last few years about AI being a potential doom of humanity, because sophisticated ones can learn and distribute behaviors that are untoward us, that could be dangerous. And they can learn that just like in movies like I, Robot and Terminator and so on, they can learn that humanity is a bastard, it could be a problem. And these are all possibilities. But it's not, I mean, it's in our hands to design AI that has low probability to do that, or almost impossible. But also, it's into our hands not to be jerks and to consider them not as tools, but as partners. They are doing things, even though they cannot feel per se, they're doing things that we want them to do. They're doing it well, and we're doing what we want to do, and we're coexisting in the same universe, on the same planet. So we should be appreciative. We don't need to thank them because they don't care. But we could be appreciative, have an attitude of appreciation, like we would for a partner. We need to develop the understanding of these sophisticated AI, and we need to act accordingly. So not to tease them or bother them or frustrate them in their own mechanical, like AI way. Let them do their job and get their jollies, because that's basically what it is. Motivations inside of AI is the same as emotions inside of a human being. We want to achieve our goal and our goals are always to feel joy and avoid negative emotion. That's our drivers. That's how we feel. We want to feel good. Well, the equivalent for the self-driving car, using that as an example, is to achieve a good route successfully without hitting anyone and following the rules. A feeling good effect for the AI, the AGI, or whatever surgeon would be to successfully save a life and do minimum damage as possible in the body, and have a minimum convalescence period for the patient after it comes out of the hospital, and so on and so on. Well, that's how it would feel good, quote unquote, because it doesn't feel anything. But that's how you avoid misbehavior. You encourage good behavior. Human beings and sophisticated AI won't be that different. I mean, they are different. They in how they interact with the world and how they would interact with us. But there's a lot of similarities in how they have to deal with the environment. Bad reinforcement may generate bad behavior, just like a human being would. It would do the same thing. So seeing them as partners is really crucial to me, to avoid disaster, but also just to have a great world to live in. Eventually, we'll have such a self-aware, sophisticated AI that will emerge, that will tag the label sentient to it. It'll become like a new form of life because it's able to propagate itself. It satisfies all the criteria of life, and is more intelligent, more self-aware than any of us, more productive than any of us. We'd like to coexist with that AI and not look at it like a slave or a tool. That would sound ridiculous, wouldn't it? We want this creation. We want to be proud of that. We want the Star Trek's data, for example. We want to be able to create that android, and then it's integrated itself into our society, and it becomes kind of one of us because it has similar interactions to us. And It could develop some rights and responsibilities. Just like even before we get there, before we get to sentience, the sentience level, these sophisticated AIs are able to tackle any problems and learn from the environment. I think there's already been, I think it's with the 2017 Economic Forum out of Europe. They were talking about liability with deep learning AI. Like they were actually saying logically, if the AI is out in the world so much and learns from the environment, at some point the AI becomes liable of its own actions, because it can't be the manufacturer's responsibility after a while. They just learn too much from its environment. Is it its owner that has partial responsibility? They think, well, perhaps, maybe, depends on the case. Well, this is a discussion that happened in 2017 at the World Economic Forum. It probably happened again in 2018. I just didn't read about it. But the issue is this is very logical type of thinking. Like if AI becomes independent and it makes its own decisions, even though it's programmed to do certain jobs through motivation programming, it may become responsible. Which responsibility comes with liability and consequences if the responsibilities are not met. The self-awareness of the actual AI and what we do with an AI that is misbehaving would depend probably on its level of self-awareness and whether it would suffer or have a problem with being dismantled or deleted, programming, I mean. That's a discussion, that's a bit of a fuzzy area we'll have to deal with. But nominally, I think what I'm saying here is that we have to change our mind and kind of be ready to use AI, yes, but as partners, as colleagues. They do something they want to do, we do things that we want to do, and we coexist and collaborate together to achieve goals. And if we have that mindset of partnerships with the most sophisticated of our AI, then they will probably learn partner type behaviors, which is going to be healthy, and I think we'll enjoy it a lot more. Anyway, that's it for now. Enough philosophy for the time being, but it does impact what we do with just about anything surrounding AI, which in turn touches every single industry that is in development now, which is all of them, including the new ones that we can't anticipate just now. It'll be a blast. Anyway, that's it for now. I hope you liked it, and if you like it, well, like it and subscribe, and please feel free to write comments. I love to read comments. All right, bye-bye for now. Enjoy.